And with great pleasure, I'd like to introduce the residents and Snakefinger.
We're all welcome on stage to get some group shots against the wall, and then we'll
More a situation of circumstance than anything else. When the residents were doing the mold show about 3 years ago, it was actually booked in to play New York twice, as a matter of fact. But once the whole tour was really underfinanced and had to be canceled because of that. The second time it was really a balky promoter that felt like he couldn't sell the show on a Monday night. It was the only night we had available. So it just didn't come. Got to Washington, D.C., played New Music America, but we couldn't get up here with it. Actually, the residents have been interested in playing New York for a long time, and really glad to have the opportunity.
Any other questions?
How come Warner's won't pick you up in the U.S.?
Because the residents won't put a drum machine on the record.
Is that the only reason?
As far as I know, I mean, Warner's has in England, and more or less the word has been given to them, that if they were willing to put more of an entity to the music, then they might be able to get some sort of major distribution, but the residents have never really been interested in it. Actually, it's been recently re-released in Europe.
But in the U.S. it's been going.
No, not right now. I mean, it may get, it came out on Residue, I think, in a slightly edited form. So at least it's out on something.
Anything else?
How do you explain the band's popularity in Japan?
Well, actually, the band, I wouldn't say at this point they're not that popular. They were really were introduced to the Japanese market when they were just there about 2 months ago. But the Japanese seem to like it a lot. The Japanese, from my perspective, the Japanese seem to like anything that they can consider sort of offbeat and authentically American, which is to say, country and western, jazz. They have, to me, in a lot of ways, they're very held back by their tradition in terms of being able to do stuff like that themselves, and they sort of really like Americans that are able to go ahead and do it. And I think that's a lot of the appeal. It's a lot the same in Europe too. Europeans really do a lot for jazz, and American sort of avant-garde and country and western.
So are there plans to exploit the new popularity?
To exploit?
Exploitation has never been in the residential vocabulary.
Definitely yes, from my point of view. I mean, when you've got a situation dealing with somebody that has never actually, this is the first major American tour, they've only done one European tour, the best-selling record that they've ever had sold somewhere between 50 and 60,000 copies. Exploitation, from a highly commercial sense, is a pretty distant prospect.
But this is a new market, so...
The Japanese, you mean? Yeah, it's exploitation anybody that objects to having more money and living a little more comfortable than what they currently do.
There's also a new business arrangement in Japan that Wave Records has signed residents, and a double live album, or a live album and a double CD has just been released. So there's going to be a lot more visibility in the country for the residents.
I mean, in Japan, the residents were sponsored by Wave Records, which is a subsidiary of Saban, which is one of the large family-owned corporations that owns 200 department stores and railroads and a lot in Japan. Okay, they had the kind of promotion over there. It would be like walking by Macy's and you see like 60 TV monitors and there's a residence video playing on 60 monitors all at once, and then they're all over the store. It was pretty amazing. The Wave record store, which is one of the biggest in the world, it's like a 6 or 7 story record store, had a banner, 30-foot high banner, with a picture of the residents on the side of it that you saw on Tokyo's busiest freeway. And it was pretty amazing. But there hasn't really been a lot of money and a lot of popularity generated at this point. It may come.
Will the residents wear their eyes when they perform tomorrow?
They wear the eyes part of the time. Most of the time they don't. I mean, it's very difficult to perform with those on, and they wear it part of the time.
When are they going to be on Miami's lights?
It's in negotiations right now. You know that Penn Teller, who was on the opening show of Miami Vice this year, was the narrator of the rest of the show when they toured Europe with it. I mean, curiously enough.
I hear rumors of a video being shot.
I understand that MTV is going to be here, and there's going to be like a dress rehearsal, and some video will be shot then.
Due to the lighting techniques of the show, nothing can be shot during the show, so we're having a brief run-through on Friday. And MTV will be filming for music news, and there's a possibility of a Letterman remote that's kind of up in the air and things like that. So it'll be a chance to shoot in-concert photos. It'll be exactly like a concert, with the exception of a few lighting changes and a lack of an audience, so it'll be easier for you, and it'll be a chance to get in-concert photos. That's what it's designed for. There'll be 2 run-throughs, one for film and one for flash.
Will you be running through music at that point as well?
We will be performing that.
Are there more videos in the water?
There are no videos currently in the works. The residents have a video project. There's a demo. At this point, I'm not sure if video will be shown here or not. We are carrying about an hour to an hour and a half's worth of video on tour that we show in clubs before the show where there are convenient facilities. And there's a demo that will be shown as part of those videos that's for a project they're currently trying to get financing on. But yeah, I can't really say much more about that. You'll see it at the shows.
We will be showing the video here on Thursday and Friday. Any other questions?
What is the significance of the eyes of the
Oh, it's something that I guess we should mention. During a performance in Los Angeles on December 26th at the Hollywood Palace, sadly but true, one of the eyeballs was stolen. So this resident has suffered an undeniable violation of identity and is kind of upset about it. And so we're all in mourning, and there will be a short memorial service before each show, which will have kind of a eulogy going, and we're kind of upset at the fact that it's been stolen, and we're sort of searching out the culprit.
Any leads?
There were some calls that had come into Ralph Records just before everyone left that someone had it. And there were negotiations going on to potentially procure its return.
Any
But-
ransom demands?
Huh?
Were there ransom demands?
We don't really know. We don't really know. It happened just before everybody left, and nobody at that point knew whether to even take it seriously or not, as to whether that person really had it. I mean, the stories that started hitting the press in LA and San Francisco that it had been stolen, so it's pretty hard to tell if it was genuine or not.
Any fruitcake could primarily say that he has the eyeball in his possession, and many calls have come in, and one of the theories is that they're trying to get closer to either Ralph or the residents with that claim that they do have the eyeball, but we're unsure as to its whereabouts, as to who took it. And just as Homer said, it happened right before we actually left California on the road, so we're unsure of where it is now.
I heard rumors that somebody sent you a corneal sample to prove that they had it.
We can't really comment on that at this point.
Do you think it's fair to the public that you all persist in keeping your identities away from your fans? I mean, don't you think it's time that you all revealed yourself to your public?
Personally, I think the fans like it. I think the fans would be kind of bored if they actually found out what their names were and what they look like.
Ironically enough, the eyeballs were designed for the album cover Eskimo with no long-range plans to continue that as their imagery, and the fans liked it so much it sort of became a responsibility, in a way, to continue with the eyeballs and conceal the identity of the band.
Do you find that the eyeballs help alleviate ego problems within the band?
Well, there's never been any ego problems within the residents, so nothing's ever had to contend
No
with.
egos and no problems.
No problem.
One of the conveniences of the eyeballs is it sort of lets them have their privacy in their local coffee shop. So.
Do you think you'll do a version of It's a Man's World in this current show?
Definitely. Definitely.
It's quite colorful.
What time are the shows slated to begin?
Thursday at 9 and Friday at 11.
Real time.
John Shish shows start promptly.
Question for Mr. Snake. Could you tell us something about, say, solo plans for yourself? You have like a band tour coming up or a new solo album?
Hopefully we're going to be doing another album shortly with a Canadian record company, and we finally found somebody in New York who's willing to talk to us, so who knows, maybe we'll come play here sometime soon. We'd like to.
Is Eric Feldman still playing?
Yes, Eric's still with us.
For any articles that may be written, I think we should give you some information about the tour. It's scheduled to go on to February 17th, which is our last show. Started in the south, came to the east coast, 2 shows in Canada, 1 in Montreal and 1 in Toronto, and then down across the northern United States, and then out to the Midwest, and then down into Texas. And as you said, it ends February 17th. Then we're going back to LA for some shows in LA, and then sort of in hibernation until something comes through with a European tour in the late spring or summer.
Do you have a test kit or anything with kind of like
Sure.
general background?
I'm not sure if we have them with us, but we can certainly take their address and get you one.
Is there any particular reason for the sudden spurt of touring after 10 years of not touring? Sudden, within 3 years, tours of Europe, Japan, U.S. I mean, is that just you getting old and waiting, or impatient, or don't want to get it over with?
Actually, the residents don't get old, they get young.
I think it had a lot to do with, to a certain extent, looking for new challenges. After hiding themselves away in the recording studio for over 10 years, I won't say that they could find no new challenges there, but they felt like they needed to get out a little bit to help stimulate things. And even though in a lot of ways the European tour was quite traumatic in a lot of ways, it was a pretty difficult tour, still the idea of playing live became more intriguing to them. And when they did that show, they actually performed with headphones on and behind the screen. And they really felt like they weren't giving playing live a good shot. They were going to play, if we're going to play live, let's make it a little bit more live. So there's really a lot more audience contact, and the show is a lot more immediate. It's really designed for a nightclub instead of a theater where the other one was. And I think the idea of doing more shows is just appealing to them.
So meaning that this probably won't be the end of it? Will be subject?
No, probably not. You probably will be subjected more. We all have our crosses to bear.
Are you planning to go to Europe once again?
Yes.
When?
At this point, the plans are to be touring Europe for 4 or 5 weeks, probably in May or June, but they're going to fix things with this next show.
Do you know if you're going to go to Sweden?
At this point, no, but actually there's a lot of interest. Residents did not get to go to Sweden last time, and they would really like to go this time if possible.
When cultural icons die, there's usually one flourish of dramatic gesture. When Clara found Holly Dewey, he said goodbye to us. Do you think there's a chance that when it all fades away, we might hear the residents actually speak?
Well, it's possible. Nobody's really looking towards anything fading away at this point. So there's not much speculation in that direction. But who knows what stories are kind of like when everything's all over.
It's one of the whole changing, and challenges and with the live shows and the personal experience. So, do you think some of the mystery of the resident is so essential a part of the resident mystique for the, throughout the 70s and early 80s? Do you think that's been sacrificed in the, towards some other goal, such as more money or, large coat habits, or, something about the mystique of the residents through the 70s, I think it's something very important to their appeal. And now with touring and personal appearances, do you think that is lost and the residents are sort of, not cool guys anymore?
Well, it's pretty hard to say. Things are definitely changing. And whether mystique will be lost, gained, or changed at this point is pretty hard to tell. I mean, it's obvious in a lot of ways, I suppose, the more remote you are, the more mystique you can create for yourself. I mean, Howard Hughes certainly created plenty. But at the same time, are you going to allow your own mystique and reputation to control you, or do you control it? And from my standpoint, the residents are doing what they want to do, and that's what's really important.
So who controls the mystique? I'm just saying that the mystique is in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
And so this, by taking a more controlling interest in their personal profile, their public profile, do you think therefore they're taking more of a control of the mystique? Is that what you're saying?
I would say it's definitely true. I'd say it's definitely true.
Feeling from the booking end of this tour, Mystique is definitely still flourishing across the country. In some areas of the country that we are going into, and in some areas that we explored and decided not to go into, there are lapses in familiarity with the band. But usually that is taken care of once we're called the control of American independence and American independence of import. So the mystique is definitely still out there, definitely a strong band, and the press and the audiences in the various areas that we're playing are certainly reacting upward.
Isn't that, thing that the thing a function of sort of breaking version Well, this is still basically the first American tour, you know, and it's, will that Mystique be there again in a year, 2 years, 3 years now, once they become just another rock and roll band and wear eyeballs, you know, I mean, is that,
One of the things about, as far as touring affecting Mystique is it's been a very strong desire for the residents to make each tour different. And certainly we're not going to be free touring yearly. There aren't plans at least to be touring yearly, so it's not going to be the next rock and roll band with eyeballs.
Yeah, it sort of depends in a lot of ways on what sort of satisfaction they're able to pass on to their audience as to what sort of mystique stays around. And like Rich says, there's no intent at doing 13th anniversary tour 2. I mean, you know, this is a thing unto itself. It will be done, and then it will be done. At this point, the residents are talking about the possibility of doing, finishing up the Mobile trilogy with part 3 in the fall of '86, and then doing a tour that wraps all that up. Okay, they see that as something that's a very definite thing unto itself. Okay, and they're also, for fall of '86, they're planning on putting out the next part of the, fall of '85, the next part of the Composer series.
you know, full of 85
Huh? Fall of '86, pardon me. Fall of '86. Fall of '87 is the most, fall of '86 is the next part of the Composer series, which is John Philip Sousa and Hank Williams. And they're looking forward to getting 3 Composer series albums out so they can do a Composer series tour, because they're very interested in doing a tour where they're strictly working musically and musically from other people. That seems real interesting to them.
So would you have to record your setting the winter on fire or something like that?
Yeah, Collage of the Indian is one that they're particularly interested in.
All right.
I mean, they may even try to put like a big band together to do the American Composer Series tour, so that, you know, they can really get a big sound and really change things for that.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, about building up the sound, maybe including backup singers and all that.
It's definitely possible. I mean, you know, once again, it's really hard to talk about a tour 3 or 4 years ago and tell you what it's going to be like. But, yeah, that's definitely possible.
Any other questions?
I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity of seeing what the press actually looks like. I've always wondered.
Well, we certainly thank you for coming, and you're all welcome to the run-through of the show on the 17th. That begins at 5, and there'll be one for flash photos and one for videotape.
Is that the same as the performance?
There are slight modifications in lighting, because you literally cannot shoot the show because of the way it's lit, and none of the photos will ever come out. Our staff photographers have not been able to get any productive photos out of the show. So there will be lighting changes and 1 or 2 just very minor changes. But essentially, we're doing anywhere from 3 to 5 numbers of the show exactly as we would in concert, with the lack of an audience and changes in lighting. It's basically designed for you so that you can get in-show performance shots. Right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 13th anniversary show of The Residents, featuring Snakefinger.
Skinner was born in a bathtub, grew so incredibly thin, even the end of an eyedropper sucked him in. Skinny never knew any questions, Skinny never looked at lights, but Skinny sold something every single night. Skinny sold a soldier to me. Skinny sold a wife. Skinny sold a suction cup and a knife. Skinny found a Hello Dolly record in the hall. He sold it to a truck driver in the fall. So here I come.